Traumatic brain injury. According to the text on page 435, traumatic brain injury means an acquired injury to the brain caused by the external physical force, resulting in total or partial functional disability or psychosocial impairment or both, that adversely affects a child's educational performance. It applies to open or closed head injuries resulting in impairments in one or more areas such as cognition, language, memory, attention, reasoning, abstract thinking, judgment, problem solving, sensory, perceptual, and speech. To enhance my learning experience of traumatic brain injuries, I was very curious to know the statistics of leading causes in the U.S. The date ranges from 2002 to 2006 from brainline.org. At number 1, it was 35% of falls, and at number 2, it was 17% of traffic incidents. Also, as I watched a video of Chloe participating in lacrosse, I was also curious as to the numbers for concussions within school districts. And also from the same website, brainline.org, I found out that an estimated of 1.6 to 3.8 million sports and recreation-related concussions occur in the United States each year. Among high school athletes, concussions are most often caused by contact with an opponent, a teammate, the ground, or a piece of equipment or an object in the playing field. For male, the highest leading cause of concussion is football, and for females, the highest leading cause is soccer. The cerebellum is located behind the top part of the brainstem. It is relatively well protected from trauma compared to the frontal and temporal lobes and brainstem. It receives information from the sensory system, the spinal cord, and other parts of the brain, and then regulates motor movements. It coordinates voluntary movements, resulting in smooth and balanced muscular activity. Damage to the cerebellum can lead to loss of coordination of motor movement, the inability to judge distance and when to stop, the inability to perform rapid alternating movements, movement tremors, staggering wide base walking, tendency toward falling, weak muscles, slurred speech, and lastly, abnormal eye movement. The frontal lobe is at the front of the brain. The right hemisphere controls the left part of the body and vice versa. The purpose of the frontal lobe controls cognitive skills such as emotional expression, problem solving, memory, language, judgment, and sexual behaviors, and primary motor functions, which is our ability to move our muscles and the two key areas related to speech. Damage to the frontal lobes can create changes in personality, limited facial expressions, and difficulty in interpreting one's environment, such as not being able to adequately assess risk and danger. Occipital lobe. It is located at the rear portion of the skull, right behind the parietal and temporal lobes. The main purpose is the primary visual cortex, which is the region of the brain that receives input from the retina of the eye. This is where the mind interprets color and other important aspects of vision. It is critically important for reading and reading comprehension. Damage to the occipital lobe is likely to result in visual impairments and other vision-related problems. Disorders of the occipital lobe can cause visual hallucinations and illusions. Parietal lobe is located near the center of the brain, behind the frontal lobe, in front of the occipital lobe, and above the temporal lobe. It contains the primary sensory area where impulses from the skin such as warmth, cold, pain, and touch are interpreted. It gives us the ability to judge size, distance, and shapes. The parietal association cortex gives us the ability to understand written language and solve mathematical problems. When damage to the left, Gernstam syndrome occurs, which leads to right-left confusion, difficulty with writing, and mathematics. Damage to the right will lead to neglecting part of the body or space, which can impair many self-care skills such as dressing and washing. Temporal lobe. It is underneath each half of the brain on either side, below the frontal parietal lobe. It provides us the ability to receive and interpret auditory information from the ear as well as the nose. An important area within the temporal lobe is the Wernicke's area, where we can recognize speech and interpret the meaning of words. Damage to this area, such as trauma or stroke, can lead to difficulty understanding speech and difficulty saying words that make sense, as well as anterograde amnesia, or the inability to create new memories. Brainstem. It is located in the central trunk of the mammalian brain, consisting of the medulla oblongata, pons, and midbrain, continuing down to form the spinal cord. It is the main motor and sensory innervation to the face and neck via the 12 cranial nerves. It also regulates the cardiac and respiratory function as well as the central nervous system. Damage to the brainstem is the risk of herniation of the cerebral cortex into the brainstem area, causing compression of the brainstem and interfering with the involuntary nervous system, which is responsible for heart rate, breathing, blood pressure, which can in fact result in rapid death. Accommodations for students with traumatic brain injury. Most of the time, school systems are very willing to provide accommodations to students with brain injury. Accommodations are special services or arrangements designed to help survivors overcome and offset injury-related limitations. Effects can be tragic for students at any level. Students with the most severe injuries are unable to attend school. Some require homeschooling until they recover enough to travel and attend classes with other students. It can harm important academic abilities such as reading, arithmetic reasoning, vocabulary, writing, and spelling. Concerns about passing the school year and or even graduating arise among the parent and the student. Frequent complaints from the students with brain injuries include, "I studied for twice as long as I used to, but I'm still doing much worse. I can't remember anything I read no matter how many times I reread the same thing. Exams are murder. I need 20 minutes to think of what I want to say and then the time has run out." To help understand what accommodations might be more appropriate for students with brain trauma injury, I've listed some classroom accommodations, such as allowing additional time to complete in-class assignments. That way they don't feel pressured. Provide extra or extended breaks. That way they can pace themselves and not feel overwhelmed. Provide both oral and written instructions to fully emphasize on their two senses. Allow use of portable computers with spelling and grammar checks for assignments and note-taking. While grading, reduce the emphasis on spelling and grammar errors unless it's the purpose of the assignment. And lastly, exempt students from reading aloud in front of classmates because of impaired reading skills. The last thing you want to do is isolate the student with the disability and feel self-conscious about it even more. Testing accommodations. They are important to consider as a teacher because you do not want to penalize a student for having a learning disability. You must provide a quiet, individual environment with the goal of minimizing distractions in order to complete the test. Allow oral examinations and assist students in having responses scribed as needed. Refrain from open-ended questions and use multiple choices. Allow students to clarify and explain themselves freely so they do not feel frustrated or overwhelmed on trying to write an answer on a piece of paper. Schedule one test a day. It is not fair to schedule 2 exams in the same day for a child with a traumatic brain injury, as it can be very challenging to even overcome the first one. As we draw near to the end of my traumatic brain injury clip, I would like to thank you for watching, and please take a moment to watch the YouTube video I have included to this slide for Will's story at Nationwide Children's Hospital in Nebraska. It is truly a motivational story, definitely worth hearing, and hopefully you have the willpower to influence others and inform them about traumatic brain injuries as well.